Hey everyone, CamJack here. Today we're going to be talking about Space Engineers and the upcoming multiplayer update that is due very soon. If you're not following Space Engineers, then you might have missed the recent public multiplayer tests that have been taking place. There's been quite a few in the past couple of weeks. There's actually another one coming up tomorrow, and I'll leave some instructions for how you can get involved in the description below. Make sure to head over to the Keen Software House Discord. Back to the point. Recently, Keen Software House, the developers, have been running these tests in preparation for the next big update coming to Space Engineers, which we did get confirmation is the multiplayer update. Now, I actually got my hands on the multiplayer server files last weekend, which was a massive, great thing to actually undertake. Thanks to the developers for that one. So I could test it out in my own scenarios for upcoming projects that I'm working on. My tests were massively successful, and I can honestly say that there has been a massive improvement in the Space Engineers multiplayer experience from my own point of view. Now, not everything has been tested just yet. As far as I know, scripts are still disabled on some of the multiplayer servers, so we've not had a chance to actually test how well they'll do performance-wise on the server. In regards to simulation speed, which is usually one giant big issue on a Space Engineers multiplayer server, I was pleasantly surprised to see that my server was holding at a steady 1.0 simulation speed throughout the whole weekend. Obviously bar some moments when I was spawning in giant ships and crashing them into ground, and we invited last time gamers on who drove her over and broke a few things. Can I just take a moment to point out that for the first time in like forever, I managed to land my starfighter on a moving rover without any glitches or crashes along with that. Walking around on moving vehicles in the game is now near perfect, and I can't wait to be actually doing that in more of my survival adventures, especially with series like Colony Survival and the upcoming Season 2 of Colony Survival itself. Now, do I think this update will be good for the game? Absolutely. I cannot stress enough, I think this new Space Engineers update is going to take massive strides for the game. Hopefully if it's done right. If we're seeing what we're getting now, it's going to be quite good, but I have some further points to make on this. One of the best things about sandbox games is that I believe they're best played with friends. Whether it be things like Minecraft or other experiences or Ark Survival for example, not really Survival, but you get what I'm saying. Sandbox games are best done with friends. Now previously this has been difficult for Space Engineers. It's got multiplayer gameplay, it's always had it, but it's had its fair share of issues with multiplayer gameplay. Even we struggle with things like Colony. Now this update should resolve most of that and hopefully will breathe some life into the game once again for people who do enjoy multiplayer. In terms of criticism for this update, as I know a few of you will ask, I don't have anything just yet. There is one large and important topic I wish to discuss, but unfortunately I can't do that until the update has actually been officially released. My reasons for this will be explained then. For the moment, I hope you do understand, and we will talk about this again once the update is released. In terms of when I think the update will come around, I'm predicting probably a late August release date for this. Obviously, we're at the end of June now. July next month, and I expect to. I'd be very surprised if I saw the update in July. I'm just going to say that now. I expect at some point in August we'll most likely see it. That's personally just a guess of mine, so we'll have to hold it and see how long that actually goes for. If I had to be picky, I would say it'd be nice to have some clarity into what's being tested this week. We've got another multiplayer test tomorrow, which is Thursday. I'd love to know what specifically they're testing, just so if we players could help out in any terms, or just understand what's currently being worked on. I personally like to have more exposure to what's going on in development studio. Personally, that's just me. I know some players don't care, but you know, I just like to know what's going on. Okay, so now moving on. A few members of the community have expressed concerns about the files not being widely distributed out for community members to test themselves. Now I understand Keen's reasoning behind this at the moment. The best way for the developers to test the multiplayer code is to have everything internal with themselves. If they were to give it out to every man and his dog, then the data they were after would not be gathered and therefore the test would kinda be worthless, to be honest. One of the most important things and interesting things I have to tell you about the recent tests is they've actually made an introduction of a new admin-esque feature which will help players on things like survival servers. The introduction of safe zones is amazing, and I cannot wait to see how well it gets expanded. Currently in its current working state, it is amazing to play with and helps players on the servers. If you're wondering what safe zones are, then let me tell you. Essentially they can be placed by admins to make sure that new players cannot be damaged. For example, in my server we ran at a weekend, I placed a medical bay down where players could spawn and then put a safe zone around it, essentially making a safe respawn area where players could not be instantly killed, and it actually worked as well. It really does work well, not even ships can breach it, so if you think flying a ship into a medical bay will work, think again, it won't, it'll just bounce right off. Now one thing to note with the test servers so far, like the one that will probably be ran tomorrow and the ones that were ran last week, is they have rather harsh block limits pointed out by a few community members. Realistically, I don't think this is the best for tests as it's limiting what players can do. As Space Ninjas is a sandbox game, as I pointed out earlier, trying to control players isn't the best as it limits creativity. Now in saying that, I do understand why Keen are putting limits on it. You can't have players running around doing everything and building things, as it won't help the other players and will just lag the server. But I feel like we should at least test with the block limits turned off to see how wild things can actually go over 24 hours. Just run another server where block limits are off and run another one of them on and just compare the results. Maybe they've already done this and I'm just speaking from what I've not seen. I really think this can provide some good documentation on how servers can perform and will definitely help our server admins in the near future. Most current server issues are caused by players playing over a long period of time. I'm talking weeks, by the way. This comes from someone who runs an SC server. Now it'd be great to have a test server by Keen Software House for a whole month. I don't think this is actually possible. I don't see the developers doing it, but it would actually be good for various reasons, specifically to test how well the server holds up over a long period of time. Now in saying that, they have been testing it over weekends. Personally, I still don't think that's long enough, as your average player will play over a month in a survival game, and especially in something like Space Ninjas. So we'll kind of have to see how well it goes. To sum up my thoughts on the multiplayer tests and are they absolutely worth it? Yes, 100% these multiplayer tests are worth it. Should I think that they should hand out the code and files to normal regular members? Not just yet. Personally, I want to see Keen Software House test more internally before they start handling the files out to every single member of the community, as that just wouldn't provide them with valuable feedback. For those wondering how I got the files, I simply asked and explained my reasons for it, and I also provided the developers with a whole host of feedback from what we did at the weekend, specifically related to the scenario I'm testing in question, which I'll obviously reveal to you lot at a later date, but we'll have more discussion on this later. Personally, I think it's great to see these tests are being done in small controlled environments, as most likely test a little bit of code that are getting changed at a time. In regards to further thoughts on the multiplayer update, I cannot actually wait for it to drop. Hopefully it's going to fix a lot of the issues I have with the game. Then in saying that, I don't encounter many issues in Space Ninjas in the modern day now. However, when running a dedicated survival server for my patrons, which I do, we do run into simulation speed errors quite a lot, so hopefully with those being fixed, it could do quite well. Now these tests, again, to note on it, they are kind of limiting with a block limit, so I would like to test one without that. If I get my hands on the files again, I'm going to see if I can work my best to turn off these block limits, as I feel they are limiting players, so I could test it at my own risk essentially. As I know as somebody who runs a survival server, players don't stay in one area for long. Each player likes to go off and they like to colonize asteroids, they like to settle on planets, they just won't stay on the number one planet forever. So I would like to see how things actually perform. It could be pretty interesting. Personally, I can't wait to see how things go. I'm excited for the next batch of updates, and yeah, I'm excited for the next update as a whole. Now, if you guys are members of Space's community and you have opinions on the multiplayer tests, I would like to hear them down below. If there's anything I've missed or accidentally pronounced wrongly in this video, please do let me know down below in the comments. I'm always interested in your guys' feedback, and as usual, I'm always interested in the Space's community and how the game is actually developing. Personally, this is a game I've stuck with for many years now, and I cannot wait to see it advance throughout the community even more. I'm really excited about the next update for Space Ninjas, and I believe it's going to breathe a fresh air of life into the video game. Saying that, if this update does flop, it is going to be kind of concerning, as I think the community will dwindle and fade after a time. But I've got more videos on that later on, and the future of Space Ninjas from a content creator's point of view. We'll discuss more of that later on. For the moment, I'm interested in your opinions. Make sure to comment them down below, and again, if there is anything I've missed, please do let me know. I'm going to be opening up more discussion on Space Ninjas multiplayer topics very soon. Hopefully going to get a few other YouTubers in here and potential community members. If you are interested, let me know down in the comments or tweet me at CaptainJackYT, where we hopefully can discuss some things very soon. I've been Captain Jack, thank you for watching this, and I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.